Bienvenidos al episodio número 11 de Unsolicited Opinion Metal Podcast. Soy su host Weslie Negrón y acaban de escuchar el tema Milano de la banda Russian Circles. La banda acaba de lanzar su disco Blood Year y es uno de mis discos favoritos de este año, así que se lo recomiendo totalmente. En este episodio venimos con la entrevista a Tim Roth, guitarrista y fundador de la banda Into Eternity. Into Eternity es una de mis bandas favoritas desde que estoy en high school, así que se pueden imaginar mi pompeadera con esta entrevista. Ahora con algunas noticias importantes dentro del mundo del metal. La banda alemana Rammstein causaron polémica una vez más al tener dos miembros de la banda besándose en público mientras tocaban en Rusia. La banda luego subió una foto a Instagram diciendo "Te amamos Rusia". Rusia es uno de los países que tienen leyes en contra de la comunidad LGBT y la banda quisieron demostrar a quienes apoyan. Así que para que puedan ver la foto y puedan ver un poquito más de lo que sucedió allá, pueden visitar el Instagram de la banda y pueden ver todo lo que aconteció. En otras noticias, el frontman de la banda Behemoth, Nergal, anunció que el nuevo disco de Behemoth será lanzado en el 2021. La banda lanzó su disco I Love You at Your Darkest el año pasado y se encuentra en gira con Slipknot alrededor de los Estados Unidos al momento. Así que vamos a ver con lo que viene. Ahora, como antesala a la entrevista a Tim Roth, aquí los dejo con Into Eternity
y el tema Fukushima.
The candles were lit for the dead. Fukushima.
And there you heard the track Fukushima from the album The Sirens from the Canadian progressive death metal band Into Eternity. And having said that, it is my pleasure to welcome Tim Roth, lead guitar and founder of Into Eternity, to the Unsolicited Opinion Metal Podcast. How are you doing, Tim?
Hey, excellent. Thanks for having me, Weslie. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you for being here. So let's start this right up. I have to say that Into Eternity was introduced to me by listening to the Metal Equals Live Volume 2 that was sold by Hot Topic in 2006. The song Severe Emotional Distress was my introduction to death metal and to progressive metal in general. And after that, I started listening to like the Scattering of Ashes album, the full album, for basically 3 months straight, non-stop. And I was basically obsessed with the album. Now, can we let's go a little bit prior to that? Can you tell us a little bit about how Into Eternity started and what made you be able to keep carrying the band until now?
Well, first of all, thanks for listening all these years, especially back to 2006. And I remember that store Hot Topic. I remember, how they would promo, and we got a lot of big tours after that. But to rewind, I guess, it goes way back. I had a few bands in the beginning. Entity was one, and Chris Kral was the singer of this Entity band, like in 1992. And he's the singer that's on Buried in Oblivion that a lot of people like.
Right.
The album before. And then eventually I got into a death metal band with Rob Doherty. He was also on the Buried in Oblivion album. But I was just always thinking, I'm missing these melodic vocals, even though I really loved death metal. Cryptopsy had come through town in 1994, and we got to open up for them. So really seeing a band like Cryptopsy and stuff doing this extreme metal in the early 90s in the middle of nowhere in my hometown in Canada really kind of left an impression. But I was weaned on Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and all of like the really best of the best singers of the 80s. The 80s had the very best heavy metal singers, Sebastian Bach, Tom Keffer, all these guys.
Right.
So I always wanted to combine it, and that's how I kind of got the idea to form Into Eternity. And then that takes us back to 1996 is when I formed the band and we started to play shows.
Great. And then after that, you actually, did you perform like main vocals in the first album, the self-titled?
Yeah, I was the lead singer. First, we actually got Chris Kral back from Entity back in 1993. We got him back in 1996, but it didn't kind of work out. So then I decided, I have a choice. I had to be the lead singer. And it wasn't because I wanted to. I wanted Chris to be our singer. We didn't get him until finally the Buried in Oblivion album. We built up our name, started to make money. But back then, I still wanted him to be the singer. But since he didn't do it, I had to sing. So I sang from 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, and then in 2003 we got Chris Kral, and then that was the end. We had gotten Danny Nargang in, I think around the year 2000, and then he started doing all these awesome background vocals, and we started giving him little bits of lead lines to kind of work in on Dead or Dreaming.
Right.
But for the first maybe like 7 years, I guess I had to be the lead singer. But I didn't want to be actually the lead singer, even though I do love singing and everything.
And how did the whole, then after Crawl, you have Stu Block coming in the Scattering of Ashes. How was that?
That was, oh boy. Yeah, we were in big trouble because we had Bring Oblivion out. It's selling all these copies in Europe. It's doing just excellent, like Germany and these places where we were kind of signed out of Germany there. We also had our US label as well. And but then Chris couldn't really like head to Europe at the time. So we got in my buddy Dean sang for a tour and kind of was like in the band helping us out. He did like prog power and stuff. But the whole time we were touring in Europe, the internet, kind of like this MSN Messenger, it was called at the time. Right. It was kind of the only way to talk live to another person back in those days, because there was only MySpace. There was no Facebook or anything. No, at the time there wasn't even YouTube. YouTube didn't come until like 2005.
Right.
So I'm in a library, I think in Serbia or something, and then boom, Stu's messaging me saying, "Hey, I would love to be the singer of your band. I'd love to be playing with you." Just a little bit previous to that, my roommate Dave, who ended up passing away, and I wrote The Incurable Tragedy partly for him and two other people, he said, "Hey, let's go down to the local bar here, because there's this band coming in from Vancouver and they do Painkiller." And I didn't know the band. They were called Megacrom. Now we've played with them, and they're people know them and stuff now in Canada. But so I went down, and that's when I met Stu, and I saw him do all the Judas Priest vocals, and I thought to myself, "Oh man, yeah, this guy could totally do it, and it would kind of give us a totally different sound."
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that all started. And Stu flew down January 2005 from Vancouver, and he never left.
Yeah. That's awesome. That was definitely one of the things that got my attention when I first heard, specifically Severe Emotional Distress, because it was the first single and the catchy melodies. But then I think it was the first time I heard, I think it was Nothing. That was the song. Awesome. That was the song I was like, wow, this guy can sing. He can do all these voices. And I remember challenging my friends, saying like, okay, so all right, he can do it on studio, but can he actually do it live? And then, like you said, YouTube wasn't still as big by that time. No. So you guys didn't have like a lot of live videos. But then you guys had this live video where I think it was in Mexico, a live video in Mexico where he started like throwing up because he was all sick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that performance, even though he was, he still killed it, but at the same time I was like, wow, he can still do it. He can do everything that he does on the album live. So that hooked me, and all the different stuff that did the vocals around. Like, it's weird because I'm a bass player, so I'm usually concentrating in the whole rhythm section. But the vocals, like specifically in that album, that was the album that made me go back and keep on listening to you guys after that. So
man, I love hearing these stories of, like, because everyone gets into our band at different times or different years. So yeah, that was really our prime, was that exact time that we got Stu in. But we were all really worried because we were like, well, how is this gonna work? And also it was tough for Stu because he was out on tour and everyone is calling him Chris. They're like, "Hey Chris," because no one had back then. No information really got around very well. Like, it was still really magazine based, even though internet was out and there's all the internet based blabbermouth and everything.
Right.
Even still, it still was somehow a lot slower back then. So he had to take a big brunt of that. But the minute that we got on MTV in the USA, and that was on the Scattering of Ashes album, and we were actually in people's homes, Music Choice and on MTV itself and stuff, that was really a big game changer. Like, I remember we were on tour with Dream Theater, and I remember walking up onto stage in Montreal. There must be, 9,000 or 10,000 people there. It's like this huge outdoor carnival and everything. And I remember Mike Portnoy walking up saying, "Hey, I just saw Timeless Winter on Headbangers Ball." Like him coming up and telling me that, it's just like, yeah, man. Oh, that's so cool, because literally I live in the middle of nowhere in Canada. For that to actually happen, for Dream Theater to be such a huge influence, and Megadeth and these kind of bands, and to become like somewhat of openers for them was really special.
Yeah, you also did the Gigantor, the second one, right?
Exactly, and Dave Mustaine would say like the nicest things to us, and even one time pulled us over and kind of gave us a pep talk, and like the very first day he had everyone line up. He comes walking out, and this is like Dave Mustaine, who formed Metallica,
right?
who have transcended heavy metal,
right?
Metallica. So he's rock royalty, actually, Grammy Award winner. And he came over and shook everyone's hand, looked them right in the eye, welcome, thank you so much for doing this tour. And then he specifically handpicked us, and we did off shows with Megadeth, where we were just direct support. Us, Megadeth, and Smash Mouth, I think, also opened up one of the shows, but we got to be direct support and doing some stuff like that, being in like the middle of nowhere in like North Carolina and opening up for Megadeth in like a smaller venue. It was like, I'm like, man, this is it. This is this is the dream.
Right.
So I can always cherish those kind of memories. But sorry to kind of get off topic, but back to Scattering of Ashes, I guess that was really the album, though, that kind of created all those opportunities with the label and, of course, management and everyone that was involved. So it was a big team effort.
Right. Actually, I want to talk a little bit about that Gigantour, because I remember buying the DVD. It's funny because there are so many bands in that specific lineup where they are basically my favorite bands now, and if you would have had that same lineup right now today, I would have been crazy. Like I would have done anything to fly anywhere just to see the whole bill. You know,
like Opeth, Overkill, Lamb of God,
Arch Enemy,
Megadeth. It's like, what?
How did that happen?
And the best is hanging out with all these guys and catering or passing them in the hall. Oh hey Angela, how's it going? It's just like, or like the Opeth guys like watching our sound check, and I'm just like, oh good, there's Michael.
Yeah.
Oh, great, awesome. That's good. Because I'm like a super fan myself, and I try to read like the headlines as well, and I try to follow all like the Vinnie Vincent drama and any Kiss stuff that's going on, and so I'm a big music fan myself anyway. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we got to tour, of course, to promote the band, and then get to meet and hang with all these musicians was really what an opportunity, and it really made me decide I need to get better as a player and as a singer and as a performer, and I really need to step up my game. So that was a big test of the waters.
Yeah, I heard. I don't remember where. I don't know if it was in the same DVD that they interviewed Mustaine, and he said that he handpicks every band for that tour, or he used to, and basically he would just go because of the guitar. Obviously, it's him, so the guitar. Compose the way that the bands would compose for the guitar. Obviously, you are very into Yngwie Malmsteen. I know you're a big fan, so I know he every single band has that very. They're very into guitar leads and being able to make great guitar parts. So. I must imagine that if you heard this coming from him, that's something.
Yeah, I really did hear that, and he actually did listen to everyone and would give yay or nay. So because we did actually, it actually all sparked from, thank God, the Drover brothers, Glenn Drover and Sean Drover, drummer at the time, and the guitar player at the time. We go way back because they were in this band Eidolon out of Toronto, Canada. So we would swap like albums and stuff. So we were all friends before they got this opportunity and stuff. When Glenn got the opportunity, I was one of the first persons that Sean called, and we talked about him on the phone, and we're like, I can't believe this is happening. How could Glenn be getting into Megadeth? Like, and I had the Rest in Peace tab book. I said I can just like mail you the tab book. Like tabs weren't so easily accessible back then either. This was like 2004 again, so right. it was kind of a different time on the internet back then. You kind of had to do a lot of things yourself. Mm-hmm. So really, that's how it sparked. And they put our name and everything, and Dave listened to. But if he would have listened to us and said, "Well, hey, this isn't for us. There's too much growling or whatever," but to Dave's credit, he was like, "Well, no, we're bringing these guys out." And oh man, thank you to Dave Mustaine and the Drover brothers, because it was a team effort again to get us on that, and combined with management, and then also the fact that we run Century Media that had a huge budget at the time for us to put into promotion for that tour and to get us, like a bus and everything, and so it was. Oh man, to do all this stuff and to tour at that level is just not cheap for a smaller band like us. And right. We were on always. Overkill was right after us every night, so we got to really know the Overkill guys really good, and they are such hilarious guys. And Dave was such a shredding guitar player. I'd see him practicing backstage. I'd walk by the Overkill dressing room. He'd say, "Hey Tim, come on in here," and I'd watch him be practicing because I'd be doing the same thing in my dressing room. There was so much guitar playing going on,
nice.
Or Frederick from Opeth, hanging out on the bus with him, talking guitar with him. Or, there's just so many awesome guys on that tour. So, yeah, man, nothing but great memories. And, boy, did we get treated like so good. Full catering, multiple meals a day. They took care of all the gear, laid roadies. They said right when we got there, they said, "Hey, your job as musicians is to play and not to move gear." So we would have the gear out of our trailer, and they would set everything up for us. I've never been treated so nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. That's definitely great to hear, especially coming from Mustaine. You hear all these things, but it's great to hear that he actually takes cares of the band that he goes on tour with. That's
well, yeah, and I'm sure like some of those stories are true because he's a stern guy, and I'm sure that he has run-ins with people and stuff, but yeah. I can only speak from my experience, and it was like just the complete opposite. But sometimes you can't like believe all the headlines either, because those negative kind of stories are really the ones that are going to grab the person to click on that headline.
Right.
So it makes sense to to have more of a negative headline. And if you hear that Dave is such a great guy, then it's like, well, it doesn't make like a huge story. Dave Mustaine, great guy. It just doesn't. But it's true. He is. That should be the headline. Dave Mustaine, great guy, gives Canadian band chance. But you won't hear that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. And obviously, he's going through the tough situation with his throat cancer, so we hope he goes out from that very soon as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So moving on to a little bit more about the band history. So we've talked about that you've pretty much been doing this since 96, 97. And you've had multiple lineup changes during the whole story of the band, taking out or noticing the fact that you've had different singers during the whole history. Still, you guys have managed to keep a particular style that I dare to say it has influenced so many bands that came after that, specifically bands that are playing right now in the genre. What would you say has been the approach, composing-wise, that makes Into Eternity be as distinguishable even after so many lineup changes?
Well, I guess because people don't know that I sing so much and how I can write melodies and lyrics and these kind of construct songs, and it's kind of like almost like Iced Earth as well with John Schaefer. He after Barlow left and he got Stu and stuff, it still sounds like Iced Earth. They just have that sound, and that's because John is that driving force of the band. And so it's kind of worked that way with us. I thought as long as I can stay in the band and keep writing, I'm just never going to stop, because I was just so determined as a kid to try to write my own songs and kind of work as a songwriter and get out there. And people see different lineups and they can't understand that someone leaves and we could still have that kind of sound. They say, well, that band, I heard it so many times with a member left, they said, well, Into Eternity is finished. I always heard that they are finished. I always thought to myself, we are not finished. We are not done. We are going to continue. And awesome. The main premise of the band was to have no rules. I want to have acoustic parts, piano parts, like keyboard parts, shredding solos, rapid fire double bass, blast beats, power metal parts, multiple clean vocals, female vocals, death vocals of all styles, low, mid, high. So basically I just wanted to throw everything into the pot that I could, and on the side I was practicing every single day. There's literally not a day that wouldn't go by that I would play guitar, and I wasn't practicing necessarily. It was just, you know how it is playing bass. I mean, and how you've done so much yourself, Weslie. It's just like you have to play, and it's just a part of you. Yeah. So that's really how Into Eternity got going here. And I have been the driving force, but it's a team effort. There's so many people involved, and to find the right people is just so difficult. And right now, having Amanda as a singer has been just perfect. has just been nothing but a joy.
Yeah, she did a great job in the Sirens. I loved her voice. I remember watching her audition video, and she blew me away. The same way as I heard Stu for the first time. When I heard her doing the audition, I was like, damn, she's really good, and she can do the growling parts, and she can also do the singing parts beautifully. So, I mean, in a way, you know, I started listening to the band with Stu, and I do miss him. But at the same time, Amanda's doing such a great job that it's like, okay, I can definitely still going with the stuff that you guys are doing. So,
oh, awesome. Oh, thank you so much for that. Yeah, appreciate it. Stu was at those rehearsals when Amanda came down, and he was just a few feet away from her, and she said she was so nervous that Stu was just like right there in her face. But Stu, when he stepped down, it's not like he just left because we're all still best friends. He was like, no, okay, I'm going to help you train the singer. Oh, to Amanda's credit, though, Justin at the time was our guitar player in the band, and he like does a lot of production. So he got Amanda all the Chris Crawl vocals, all the Stu Block parts, all the Danny Nar Gang parts, and she learned all the different singers, all kind of like on her own through her phone. And yeah, so she did such a great job and continues to this day. So yeah, thank goodness Stu was there helping.
That's awesome. That's great. Also, I want to speak a bit about the early albums. You would repeat a lot the name of the band in the songs, like Into Eternity. Is there like a concept between the lyrics of being around Into Eternity?
No, there was no concept in that first one. One of the very, very first things I ever wrote was the song Into Eternity, and that was before we had the band name Into Eternity. I had like Left Behind, Into Eternity, The Modern Day, I think maybe like 4 songs or so, and we had no band name at the time.
Okay.
And we were gonna be called Second Coming was the one band name I was gonna use, but then somehow I said, well, after I wrote the song Into Eternity, I'm like, well, you know what, I'm gonna name it after this song.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. Yeah, we definitely did mention that a bit on that first album, but yeah, no, it wasn't intentional. It was just, we were just writing from the heart. That was it.
Okay, it just happened. All right, cool, great. So, and you guys released the Sirens in October last year. It took you 10 years to release this album after releasing The Incurable Tragedy. Could you tell us a bit about the process of releasing the Sirens? I know it was a tough ride because I kept on reading about it, and obviously as a fan, I was really looking forward to it. But in your perspective, what can you tell us about the finally releasing this album after 10 years?
Yeah, oh boy, it sure was a relief, that's for sure. And more so just for people to finally get to hear Amanda and Brian too drumming on the album. Brian does like some super, super fast extreme drumming on this new album. And anyone that's seen Brian live knows how, like, he recorded the tracks just so quick. He just nails his parts so quick. So he's just a lightning fast drummer as well. But yeah, the Sirens, oh man. During that whole process, I mean, really right from the beginning, from 1996, I was looking back at like some of the shows and stuff. We've actually played every single year. We've never taken a year off ever as Into Eternity from playing live. And on our website, it shows pretty much every show, I guess, going back to only 1999, but we're going back to 96. We did like 2 shows in 1996 as Into Eternity. And one of them is totally filmed. We have the whole show on tape. We have a whole bunch of old footage of us in the studio and doing shows that someday we'll have to release.
Awesome.
But the Sirens, so we're also playing in between that time. But basically in 2008, we found out back then that we were pregnant with my little son, Luca.
Right.
So really that's what changed everything from that point on. As far as like the heavy touring that Into Eternity used to do. So then, I guess around 2010, I started writing again, and first song was Sandstorm and Fukushima.
Right.
And by then, things had changed so much with the internet and everything, and people were releasing singles. So Stu had just left the band, and I remember going to a show, maybe it was Death Angel or something, and Rob Doherty, who used to be in the band, who's now passed away, unfortunately, who actually got to be on the Sirens, he stopped me and said, well, Tim, why don't you just sing? And then that kind of struck me for a second again. I'm like, well, geez, yeah, that's actually not a bad idea, because we kind of were out a singer, I had a brand new baby, so it kind of wasn't the time for Into Eternity at that exact moment. Life kind of stopped the band in a lot of ways, and not as a negative thing.
No, of course.
That was one of the best things that's ever happened to me, and still to this day we're like best friends. Me and Luca, he's here right now playing Fortnite or whatever video game he loves right now. And he also uses my name on there, so it says Tim Into Eternity. So he'll be playing, and people will be like, "Hey Tim, how's it going?" And he's like, "Well, no, I'm a 10-year-old kid." So they think it's me, but it's not.
That's awesome.
So that's really what happened. So we just slowly released Sandstorm with me singing, and that kind of sparked Stu's interest. So Stu will say, "Hey, I want to sing on this song." So Stu actually came back and sang on Sandstorm, and then we released a dual version, me and Stu, and then we recorded Fukushima, and of course we're doing all this self-financed.
Right.
So that's what's taking money and time to actually pay for this stuff ourselves. Right. And then we released Fukushima, and then we said, well, geez, there's quite a bit of interest. We're selling everything ourselves online. And then in 2013, boom, we got hit with a grant. We won a $10,000 Canadian Ralco radio grant. It's nice. a radio play in Regina here. So that's, as soon as we got that, it was game over. We went in and started recording, kind of finished everything, solos and everything up in early 2015. And by then we had a new guitar player. Matt was in the band, and we've had the whole straight lineup since. And and then we got signed to a European label, and some paperwork and different things were happening, business stuff that just did not sort of happen. And that pushed us back another sometime. In between all of that, we're still playing. No one really knows, because it's all like, we did like in 2012, like a kind of a U.S. tour, and in 2013, a U.S. tour, and like a Eastern tour in 2012. So most of our stuff has all just been kind of Canadian shows and stuff. So for us as a band, we've just still been hanging out and playing and rehearsing. So for us, nothing's really changed. But in the public eye, we kind of sort of went away. So when we released the Sirens in 2018, after we got this brand new record deal with M Theory Audio, people say, well, hey, this band's been gone for 10 years. So I can see that perception for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it actually took me a little bit by surprise, the fact that when I heard the album, because I heard Fukushima and I heard Sandstorm, and I already knew where it was heading, but then I heard the album and it brought me back a lot to the Buried in Oblivion era.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, for some reason it brought me back with between a combination of Buried in Oblivion, and Dead or Dreaming, which actually I'm going to dare to say that Dead or Dreaming is my second favorite album. I love that album.
Holy!
I love that album. It's just I'm a bass player, so the bass on that specific record, it has so many parts that are so tasty and so recognizable that, God, every time I listen to that album, it's like, actually, I haven't heard it in a long time. I would probably play it later tonight. But
Well, that was Scott, our bass player.
Yeah.
And he also did a lot of the production help, editing on Buried in Oblivion. And he loved those slinky bass lines. He would even kind of play fretless sometimes. And that he was Chris Carell's twin brother. They're twins.
Yes.
So the bass player Scott, and he could also sing great too. So he had like this also harmony voice, and he loved guys like Bob Daisley and all like kind of the Aussie albums. That's kind of how he wanted to play, like slinky and kind of tasty. And him and Jim Austin, the drummer on that album, would really doesn't happen in our band ever, but they would have their own rehearsals and just work on drum and bass stuff that they were going to kind of work on underneath the music. So it was kind of like another song going on underneath. Yeah,
it definitely shows. But at the same time, when I listen to Scaring to the Ashes, Troy's playing, it's so good as well. I still don't know what he does in that middle section in oh God, I'm forgetting the name right now. I can't believe
this Frozen Hell. He has a whole bunch of tapping and stuff.
Oh yes, he does that. But in oh crap, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name right now. In Scattering of Ashes,
You are right, though. Troy has tons of awesome bass lines.
Yes.
On the new album. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
He also threw in kind of like this crazy stand-up kind of bass on the beginning of Sandstorm, and normally Sandstorm never had bass in the beginning of the song, but on the Sirens we actually added Troy on the very beginning of the song, so that was never there before.
Well, the middle section of Surrounded by Night.
Oh, yes, for sure. That's a great part. That part was made up out of nowhere in Switzerland at this, I think it's called the Z7 Club, and we were doing a sound check in this huge venue, opening up for Cataclysm.
Nice.
And I remember Troy playing that, and we came up with kind of that guitar part, and I remember jamming it in that place, saying, "Oh man, that's gonna be on the next album," because this was like 2004, and sure enough, it was. We put it on the Scattering of Ashes.
Yeah,
but it was an accident, that part.
That's also a great accident. Up to this day, I still cannot figure it out what he does. And
awesome.
I mean, at the same time, I wouldn't like to sit down and play it because I wouldn't do justice. It's it's so good.
No, I'm sure you do a great job, Wesley.
But really, I love those parts. I love like I said, Dead or Dreaming bass playing, and Troy's bass playing in Scattering of Ashes, and what he has done in pretty much in every record ever since, like in Incurable Tragedy and the Sirens. I mean, the whole band is really tight, but he his job as a bass player, he has it, and he keeps everything together. It's pretty awesome.
And he has multiple jobs in the band, but he joined back in 2004, Troy. So Troy and I really kind of do a lot of the stuff, but Troy's been doing a lot of the main business stuff lately for, I'd say, the past 3-4 years. Troy's been doing mostly everything lately. So it's been just great. And down to the merchandise, too, he's been working on, and he worked so hard with this album as well. So, yeah, it's... Like I say, it is a team. For me, my passion is like writing music, writing riffs, coming up with cool vocal melodies and stuff. But there's so much other stuff that needs to go on in a band, and I'm not as passionate about those other aspects.
Yeah, I understand. I definitely understand. So, all right. So, bottom line is that Troy is the man, for sure. He's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, talking a bit about that, like I said, I still listen to a lot of the same Into Eternity, even though we've had different lineup changes and throughout the time. Now, can you tell me a little bit about your influences and why? I mean, not why, but what makes you go to the specific brand of music that Into Eternity does, and has those influences changed during the time? Do you still have the same influences as you had when you started as you have now?
Yeah, I do. I still have the same influences. I think I generally, mostly these days, I only listen to 80s music.
Okay.
Well, you know what? My Spotify will show like Kiss, Kingdom Come, Obscura, and then into like Motley Crue or something. So it's like it's definitely really weird. But no, I'm still loving the same things that I've always loved. I grew up, of course, Priest and Maiden. But then basically I started out it was Twisted Sister and AC/DC that kind of got me into guitar playing. Those are my very first influences. So I love Dee Snider as a singer. I love his tone. I love that rasp, that kind of whiskey tenor kind of vocal. And I love all the catchy songs. As a kid, Stay Hungry, my parents bought me and my brother.
Nice.
So, and then my old brother also got Holy Diver, the Dio album. So I was kind of into kind of traditional heavy metal was my favorite stuff. Unleashed in the East was the first kind of Priest album I got. So that and AC/DC, it was all about that. But then I got into heavier stuff. As soon as I got into Metallica, Megadeth, and Testament, and the thrash metal scene, that's when things kind of really opened up. And then from there, I got into Death, and then right around there as well, I got into Dream Theater. Started around 1991, 92, I guess. So then I loved all the progressive stuff, Cynic and like the progressive death metal, Pestilence, and all these kind of bands. So I knew for Into Eternity, I wanted to have a ton of clean singing, and I wanted to have tons of acoustic stuff, but then I also wanted to have all that rapid fire double bass and really the aggressive kind of death metal stuff. But when we would like put out albums, like the reviewers would say, because this was like in the 90s, they're like, well, hey, this band, they can't find sound. They're trying to do... They used to say that we were part death metal and part power metal, they used to call us. And they said, why can't this band just pick one of the genres and just pick one or the other? But I could never understand that. I'm like, no, this is our sound. Right. And now it's totally accepted. Kill Switch Engage, I remember we were going to start playing with them in like maybe 2001 and stuff. So around that time, we noticed there were a lot of other bands kind of doing clean singing and death singing, kind of combining the elements. The first band I ever heard kind of do that was like Fear Factory, and who should get props for kind of Burton was doing full brutal death vocals, and then all of a sudden kind of going into these clean vocal melodies out of nowhere.
Right.
On like Demanufacture and these in like 1995, before we were doing it, I think Fear Factory should get some props, and like Cynic as well. We're doing it clean singing combined with brutal death metal. Chuck Schuldiner as well. He's like, man, he was so melodic. Then he went into the full progressive metal range. So we were inspired by Death and Dream Theater and all the classic traditional metal. And of course, I loved even the glam stuff. I loved all Cinderella and Motley Crue and all those kind of bands as well. So I loved Ozzy and all the guitar players Ozzy had. So there was just so much guitar playing when I was a kid. There's magazines, multiple magazines on the rack, and these guys were all on the cover, and it was kind of like the later 80s, and Shred was at its peak. So I was just so influenced by Shred because of when I was born. I was born in 1975, so I missed all kind of I love Black Sabbath and all those bands as well, but by the time I became aware of music and stuff, it was like 1983, and it was the height of really high singing and really, really fast guitar playing. Right. The one thing I didn't like was the drumming. I always thought was kind of so just normal, and even on the Yngwie stuff was just kind of just so. And I always thought, well, geez, I'd love to have those fast solos, but also have extreme drumming as well, because kind of get the drums into the mix as well.
Yeah, for sure. You can definitely grasp that when you listen to your music, all the different influences. Like you said, you have like very fast death metal, and then you have like very melodic kind of power metal in a way. Well, in a way, no. You do have like a very distinguished power metal's tone, but once you mix it, then you have Into Eternity.
But the reviewers did not like that. They did not like that a band was mixing all these genres, because you are not allowed to do that. And it doesn't make sense, I guess, from a branding aspect, because you have a record label that's supposed to sign this band, but do you put them in the power metal section? Do you put them in death? Like, where do you... I guess they go in the metal section somewhere, but it's... So I can kind of understand why it was kind of weird. But I was not thinking of a business aspect at all.
Right.
None of that crossed my mind. I just want to kind of write songs, that we all kind of liked, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. I mean, I think I've had this conversation with a lot of people over here, specifically in Puerto Rico, that have been in bands that for some reason are more leaning into like deathcore and metalcore. And then every time I mention the name Into Eternity, the first thing that they mention is very innovative. That's
awesome.
That's the first thing they mention, and they go like, "Hey, yeah, Into Eternity, they were really great." So like that's what I mentioned earlier, that you guys influenced a new wave of bands that are basically the bands are sounding down in this genre, like in melodic death metal genre. And you guys also blew up in a very interesting era where bands like Scar Symmetry and Mercenary, I think all three bands have like very similar sound, even though you guys are very into your own sound. But if you put Into Eternity, 2006 Into Eternity, 2006 Scar Symmetry, and 2006 Mercenary in the same bill, you would probably have like the same, the same genre of people. Like you guys were pretty much doing the same thing.
Absolutely. Oh man, and we got to tour with Scar Symmetry.
Oh my God.
It was so awesome. Like Per is oh my God, probably one of the best guitar players out there. And so that's when I realized, oh my God, I'm nothing the minute we played with Scar Symmetry, because he's doing every type of jazz solo and whole tone scales and making everything work, and his songwriting and everything. And they had their original singer at the time when we toured with them, and it was Scar Symmetry opened, then it was us, and with Dark Tranquility and The Haunted.
Oh, wow.
So that was the tour, and it started in Florida, and we went in the U.S. for like, I don't know, for weeks on that tour. And yeah, I have really a lot of fond memories of that tour. I remember hanging out on the bus with those guys and watching them play. And yeah, what a great band. And Per's gone on since to like tour with Meshuggah and do all this stuff. And yeah, he's one of the best guitar players out there. But you're right, totally that kind of style, clean singing and death singing. Yeah, that total thing, just like totally our sound. They were doing the same thing. We had no idea because we were doing it in Canada, and they were in Sweden,
right,
doing it. So yeah, it was just a coincidence that we all kind of were going that direction, and then we were all influenced by death metal. So it kind of makes sense that the musicians from my era coming up kind of would play, those styles together.
Yeah, for sure. Great. That's I love listening to stories, because I had no idea about them, and it actually makes me regret not being born earlier, because I would have definitely gone to all of these tours. So Tim, you guys released the Tyrants last year, and you guys have you actually played a show last week, right?
Yeah, we just headlined a festival in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, this Decimate Festival, and it was really awesome. And yeah, we got to hang out with all of our friends in Calgary. It was great.
That's awesome. So what's next for Into Eternity? What's next on your schedule?
Well, we've been offered some tours as well. So, I mean, we're definitely going to be looking to what opportunities that we can put our hands on. Now I'm working a full-time job as well, the rest of the guys too. So we kind of just have to pick and choose what kind of stuff that we do. And it's kind of cool too, though. It's kind of nice to have that freedom to go and kind of pick and choose the shows. So
right.
We've been doing like a lot of festivals and stuff in Canada. So yeah, we'll definitely stick it out with that. But our main goal, we'd love to get back into the U.S. And we had a tour offer for November, so we're going to look over that one as well.
Great. Please let us know if you guys do that, because I will definitely travel. I haven't seen you guys live, and I'm dying to. So I need to see you guys.
Well, it's all thanks to Marco, who signed us at M3 Audio. He used to be the president of Century Media Records. So Marco signed our band, back in, I don't know what it was, the year 2000. We sent him our album in 1998, and he was listening to us back then. So it's awesome that he had left Century Media. He has his own record label now, and he reached out again, and it's so cool to kind of come full circle and work with the exact same guys that
awesome.
Did so much for our career. So we're so happy that the Sirens is out now, and everyone can stream it for free on Spotify. If you can't buy it, it's no problem. Just stream away and listen to it for free as much as you want.
Awesome. Great. Well, Tim, we're almost done here, but we're going to reach in the section of the interview when I do quick words or phrases, and you're going to tell me what's the first thing that comes up to your mind. All right?
All right.
Cool. So the first phrase would be, or the first thing that will come to your mind, what would you say would be the best band to tour with?
Metallica. No question.
So we actually got to open for Metallica over here in Puerto Rico.
I believe that I did see that, because I think your new band is Moth, but this was in your previous band, I believe.
Yeah, my old band Saphicon. I'm in Moths now. Yes.
Yes. How was that experience? Quickly.
It was very weird. It was very weird. All this stress, because we didn't have dressing room for ourselves when we got to the arena, and then we couldn't actually do sound check because they were recording a music video, and the set was. I thought the set was horrible because I couldn't hear myself, and I couldn't hear the guitars. I can only hear the drums and the vocals, and I was so pissed. And all the guys were like, dude, chill out. Everything went out fine. Everyone was like having really good feedback towards us. But then I don't know, I think it was their tour manager. He came up to us and said, hey, are you guys ready to meet them? And that was when I said, you know what? Whoa. Nothing matters. We're about to meet Metallica. And they were great. They were awesome dudes, like all of them. So.
Oh, geez. That is like such a great story. And who can say that they opened up for Metallica? I bet only a handful of people. So you're in one of the few. Oh, wow. Good for you.
Yeah, thanks,
That's
man.
so awesome.
Yeah, it was great, but it was weird.
Basically, you lived my dream, so there you go.
Oh man, you know, I was talking to the guys of the band, like, who would have thought 8 years ago that, you know, we would be here playing here with like meeting Metallica and playing and opening for them. And I don't know, dude, it was a very bizarre moment, but it was great. And it came in a point in my life where I was really down. So it just brought my spirits all the way up and really motivated to keep doing music. So it was a great experience.
Oh, man, good for you. Yeah, who can say that they've done that? So, yeah, props to you guys.
Well, hopefully, I don't know, if you guys hopefully have the opportunity soon. I don't know. You guys are great, man. I'm a huge fanboy, so.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much.
No, for sure. So the second word, or the second phrase is a name. Yngwie Malmsteen. What does he mean to you? What's the first thing that comes up to you?
Ooh, inventor of shred guitar. I know everyone says Eddie and stuff, and Eddie Van Halen is amazing. I love him, but oh man, Yngwie really took the whole neoclassical thing. I know there's Ritchie Blackmore and other guitar players, but Yngwie really should get props for inspiring power metal as well, because his music is clear and cut power metal. I love the early Yngwie stuff. It's just absolutely incredible vocals and guitar playing and cool riffing and interludes and neoclassical, and he did so much for music and inspired me so much. In fact, that my son's middle name is Yngwie.
Right.
I wanted his first name to be Yngwie, but at least on his actual birth certificate it says Yngwie. So.
That's awesome. That's being a big fan as well. You know, big fan.
Absolutely. I'm a fanboy for so many bands and so many artists. So I can't help myself.
Oh no, it's just music, man. Music is so good, and you know, as long as you don't take it to limits where it can be weird, it's great being this way. You know, and specifically in my case, this is something I was telling a friend of mine a couple of days ago. Like when you actually agreed to do the interview, like I was freaking out in a way. But if you would have told 50-year-old Weslie that he was going to interview Tim Roth from Into Eternity, you know, he would have been no way, that wasn't going to happen. So, all right. So, and the last phrase and the last word, what's the first thing that comes up to your mind when you think Into Eternity?
Oh boy, I would say longevity. We've definitely been working at this for 24, coming on maybe 25 years soon here. So, yeah, it's definitely something that we've never stopped doing, even though we may not always be in the public eye and people may not have every album and we're not the most popular band in the world. At least people can take solace in that we always continue on and we'll always be putting out music at some point, no matter what. And we'll always be performing live as long as we can. So, yeah. Into Eternity's done so much for me. I got to see a lot of the world, and Japan, playing Japan and Iceland, and on tour with Reunited at the Gates in Japan on a bullet train with them. You're thinking to yourself, like, what is going on? How am I in Japan with At the Gates, Reunited, and Dillinger Escape Plan diving into the crowd? I'm like, what is going on?
Nice.
But it's music. Thank God for music. Yeah.
No, for sure. It's great. That's awesome. Well, Tim, again, thank you so much for being here. I want to give you the time and the space for you to mention where the people can find information about Into Eternity, where can they follow you, and obviously listen to the Sirens, which is a fucking great album.
Awesome. Well, yeah, they can go check out Salem Music, M Theory Audio, a record label out of the USA selling copies. They've got awesome vinyl and CDs. Of course, you can listen to it free on YouTube, but also if you can stream it on Spotify, that would be awesome as well. Our Facebook page, Into Eternity, you could always contact us there, intoeternity.ca. We have an old school website that Marlise has done for us. So, yeah. Any of those places, the internet, anywhere you like, live shows, we'll get back to you.
Awesome. Well, Tim, again, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a pleasure talking to you for this bit. And now we're going to keep going with one of your favorite bands, I'd say. This is Death and the song Misanthrope.
Another
Y ahí tuvieron a Death y su tema Misanthrope. Esta semana no hay eventos de metal local, pero recuerden que si quieren anunciar su evento pueden enviarnos la información a unsolicitedopinionmetalpodcast@gmail.com. Aprovechamos esta sección para dejarles saber que vamos a estar recibiendo la visita de las bandas de Well, directamente desde Austin, Texas, y a Mindscar, desde Orlando, Florida, el 1 y 16 de noviembre respectivamente. Más adelante se van a estar ofreciendo más detalles de cada uno de los eventos, pero para ir calentando los dejo con The Well y su tema Mortal Bones.
The ancient Egyptians built an incredible complex of temples that were in reality astronomical observatories. The temple of Amun-Ra, the sun god and creator, is aligned so that its axis points directly to the sun.
Y ahí tuvieron el tema Mortal Bones de la banda The Well. Estarán en Puerto Rico el 1 de noviembre en Club 77, así que vayan reservando el día. Recuerden que pueden seguir a Unsolicited Opinion Metal Podcast en las distintas redes sociales como Facebook bajo Unsolicited Opinion Metal Podcast e Instagram bajo UO Metal Podcast. De tener alguna opinión, sugerencia, crítica, lo que sea, recuerden que pueden mencionarlo en cualquiera de nuestras redes sociales o enviar un email a unsolicitedopinionmetalpodcast@gmail.com. Junto al episodio en las notas voy a dejar los links para que puedan acceder a la información de las distintas bandas que se han tocado en este episodio. Y ahora, para que escuchen a la otra banda que nos va a estar visitando en noviembre, aquí los dejo con Kill the King de Mindscar. Y ahí tuvieron el tema Kill the King de la banda Mindscar, que se estarán presentando este próximo 16 de noviembre en La Respuesta. Bueno, ya nos estamos despidiendo y de nuevo quiero darle las gracias por el apoyo que le han dado al podcast. Recuerden compartir esto con todas sus amistades para que esto pueda seguir creciendo y podamos tener más bandas en el programa para que ustedes puedan saber un poquito más sobre ellas. Ahora, para el submission de esta semana, tenemos a la banda Gramma Vedetta, directamente desde UK. Aquí está el tema Address Unknown y esto es de su EP debut Proof of Concept. Sigan a esta gente en sus redes sociales ya que están a otro nivel. Recuerden que si tienes banda puedes enviar tu música a unsolicitedopinionmetalpodcast@gmail.com para consideración. Así que aquí los dejo con el tema. Gracias por escuchar y hasta la próxima. Pásenla bien.